What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about if we're going to get a PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale 2. Let's just call it, if we're going to get an announcement in 2021. I want to throw something in there related to 2021. I've talked about this game a few times before. This is one of my, it's one of the most, in my opinion, underappreciated games that have ever come out, ever. Now, I would never, I'm only 24. I didn't play games my entire life, so I know I missed out on some really classic PS2, PS1 kind of era, and there's many other systems besides those. I missed out on a lot. But for the PS3 era, and even Xbox 360, if you want to throw it in there are very few games that I would say are more underappreciated than a game like this. This game was so absolutely amazing. I adore this game. I still adore this game now, and I want this game to come back. I want this game to come back as soon as humanly possible. Now, before I get too far into it, as always, make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you guys have the bell icon turned on. If you guys want to follow me on Twitter, Podcast Now 15 is my Twitter handle. I'll leave a link for it in the description below, or of course, you can just look me up on Twitter. So look, there were rumors of this game a few years ago. I think 2018, 2019. It was definitely a few years ago, definitely over a year. There were rumors that Sony had basically, I believe, opened up a studio or had given it to a studio that had kind of a similar situation to the first game, had some veterans there of a fighting genre, and that this game was in the works. Now, that was so, and I don't even remember the full, I'll leave a video for it, the end video on this video. I'll try to find when I talked about the leaks, and we'll leave it there. That was so long ago, and I don't even remember it at this point. And so you could say, okay, well, it probably isn't happening. The issue with Sony, and I don't want to make this too much of a rant, but the issue with Sony, and I'm a by the way, and don't say I'm a Sony hater or something like that, because you'd have it completely wrong. I adore Sony. I have the PS5. I love PlayStation. I love PlayStation games. I give all games, not even just PlayStation, I give all games a chance. I'm normally, I'm pro Sony, but you know what? I call them out when I need to, and one of their biggest weaknesses, in my opinion, is leaving franchises that really could be brought back. Now, you could argue, and I haven't seen the argument, but I would like to actually see it, hey, let some of these games retire, because then you can make new games and go forward. And I get that. The idea of leaving these games behind because they have their need at a certain time, but they want to do different stuff now. I understand that. I just think when you give treatment sometimes to games like Medieval or just, random games like that, and you leave Infamous. Infamous is just dead in the water, even though it could really become something. Sly. And so my main three have always been Infamous, Sly, and Resistance. Those are the three franchises. There's many more. Jak and Daxter is another one. There's a lot of them. PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale is probably the fifth. Those five, you could say, really, all of them could be brought back. All of them could be done even better than they were, and you could probably find new life for them now that you never could have back then. I truly do believe that, okay? Whether it's a remake, whether it's a remaster, whether it's a new game. Now, I'm not talking about All-Stars. Depends on the game. We're talking about Sly. I think if you do a remaster or a remake, I think you're going to get people back into that game. Infamous, you probably would do just a brand new game. Resistance, I think if you remade or remastered the original three, I think that would be a really good idea. All-Stars, I would make a sequel. Okay, there's really no reason to bring back the original game. I think if you're going to do if you're going to bring back All-Stars, the property or the franchise, I think you would just make a brand new game. I truly, because at the time, those leaks just seemed so darn right. Okay, they just seemed very accurate to me, or maybe it's just because it was something that I wanted to see, right? I really want to believe they're doing something with that. I don't know, but then we also heard rumors of a Killzone multiplayer exclusive kind of game that was going to be happening, and that never ended up happening. In fact, PlayStation announced the Killzone's dead, right? Because they let the IP address for it. They let it shut down, so it doesn't even have a website anymore. So Killzone, I do think, is gone. I don't know. I feel like I definitely want to believe it. And you know what? Well, let's talk about it. So in 2021, this is a year of a lot of PlayStation 5 or PlayStation exclusive games coming out. We had Destruction All-Stars, we're having Returnal, we're having Kena, we're having Ratchet, we're having a lot of games, a lot. Stray, Ghostwire Tokyo, a lot. Gran Turismo. At the same time, you obviously need to think about the future. Now, the future God of War, right? Spider-Man 2, you maybe like a future Uncharted, the future Naughty Dog game, the future whatever game the Sony San Diego team is working on, which probably is, maybe that is an Uncharted game. All of this stuff, that's all coming. I really feel like you do, and Sony does it. I'm not saying like they don't do it and they need to like start doing it. You do have to do some diverse things, and that's what Stray is, that's what Ghostwire Tokyo is, that's what Deathloop is, right? These are very different kinds of games. I really think there's a place for a game like All-Stars in the world. You look at, now, it was Sony's version of Smash. I'm not saying it was as good. I'm not saying it is Smash. But, I mean, okay, I'll say a very controversial opinion. I like it more than Smash. Now, the reason is I'm actually good at PlayStation All-Stars. I am one of the worst players you could ever meet in your life at Smash Bros. Any Smash Bros, okay? So, I prefer games that I'm good at rather than games that I just literally have a 99% chance of losing every single time. So, I'll take PlayStation All-Stars. But I do think I like a lot of the mechanics of that game. Again, like, it's not Smash, but you look at what Smash Bros. Has done. You look at how they've supported that game for years now. Literally, we're into more than 1 year of them, constantly adding new fighters to that game. The game is still around. The game has sold outrageously well. Again, I'm not saying it guarantees All-Stars well, because it was the same situation back then. I mean, Smash Bros. Was a thing back then as well, and obviously PlayStation All-Stars couldn't do it. But I do think there's a calling for it. I think one of the things I said, now I didn't have a YouTube channel back then when the game came out, but one of the things I did say a few years afterwards, or even when the game came out, is that if you make a second game to All-Stars, I really don't think you're going to lose anything, or you're not going to do worse than you did with the first game. That's always been my kind of personal thought, or even theory, right? If I could pitch that to Sony, what I would say, okay, I would walk into Sony, I would say this, all right, that game, I don't think anybody hated. Now, maybe some people, but if we're talking about generalities, right? I don't think anybody hated All-Stars, okay? Maybe some people were let down. Maybe some people were like, it's a fighting game. It's okay, but it's not as good as my favorite fighting game, okay? You certainly have that. But if you made a second game, I truly think a fair majority of people that played the original would jump in and go back into it to play the second game. I think a lot of people that bought the first game would give you a second chance. That's my theory. That's my opinion. That's something I would pitch to Sony. I think there is a thirst, a really big thirst for this game. I think a lot of the people that originally bought the first game, now yes, it was not a big number. I think it sold 1 or 2 million, maybe 3 million units, which was not what they wanted. They wanted much more than that. But it sold, let's say, 2 to 3 million. I think a lot of that, I don't know how many, but I think a lot of that would jump back in and play it now. You also have, at the time, I mean, the PS3 actually was doing rather well back then, because that was towards the end of its life cycle, but PlayStation, the brand, has honestly only gotten stronger. It really is. It's become a much more a forceful thing where it's really on the top of its game. I think if you announced another game, trailers, hype on the internet, people talking about it, I think just kind of naturally the internet is bigger. It spreads around more. There's more people looking for these kind of things. I really think just the fact of having an All-Stars, not 10 years later, but we're actually kind of approaching that anniversary in a few years. I think there's going to absolutely be more people. I would almost guarantee that this game, if they made a second game, would outsell by quite a bit the first game. I really, really think so. And I don't know, like Sony obviously doesn't feel that way, right? I don't understand. This one is definitely more of a niche kind of thing, because again, like you have Resistance, Insomniac, it was such a well-loved game, but it didn't sell very good, right? Sly is in its own, world of trouble and on its own, right? Where it's a game that was very, very popular, then kind of died down. Thieves in Time obviously like destroyed the game, even though it really shouldn't have, because it was a pretty solid game. Infamous, I think you could bring back Infamous whenever you want, and it would still be really, really good. With All-Stars, I mean, remember the history with All-Stars is they made a team, and they had veterans of like Street Fighter and Tekken and all of them, and different Capcom games, right? They had a lot of those people. Literally, they built a team from the ground up just to make this game. They made the game. It did not do well. They closed the studio down, and that was the history of. I don't even remember the team's name, but I mean, my God, it definitely did not have a good a couple of years. I mean, it was built, it created a game that was very underrated, and then it literally shut down. So maybe Sony just doesn't. And here's the thing. I do understand, because I'm not saying it's easy to make an Infamous game. I'm not saying it's easy to make a Sly or a Resistance or stuff like that. A fighting game, I do think, takes a different kind of developer. You can't have, I would say, a developer that's used to make, let's just throw out an example, a developer that makes Sly Cooper. I don't know if when they say, okay, we're ready for our next game, Sony can go to them and say, oh, good, you're gonna make All-Stars 2. I don't know if people would be able to make the switch that easily. I think you really do have to make a team almost from the ground up, or just give it to a team that already does it, that is a fight. Like NetherRealm is a fighting team. You know what I mean? Same honest reason why, even if NetherRealm goes opposite, if they are a fighting team and you tell them, okay, you're gonna make a linear single-player story game, okay, and it's a third-person shooter, kind of like an Uncharted thing. Go. There's no way. There's no way, because their team is not designed. Same thing for multiplayer. And that is, I will say this, one thing I do know about the gaming industry is that is a thing. Like when they bring in, or when they make a game, say, that has multiple, like where you get to pick, choose your own, okay, like lines, right? They have to bring in people that are used to that stuff, or used to writing that kind of stuff. A normal, let's say, game developer, which none of them are really normal, right? But a normal one can't just do that, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. I do understand it, right? If you want to make an All-Stars 2, you probably have to give it to a fighting team, so you have to pay them if they're not owned by you, stuff like that. And if you want it, you know, ground up by yourself, you're going to have to make a team just to do that, right? Unless you do like a remaster or something like that. But again, like, I really don't think there's a purpose for that. I think, you know, a remaster of it would probably do less than a second game would do, because it's like, I don't want to play the exact same game again. I want an updated roster. I want updated levels. I want updated abilities, all that kind of stuff. Give me a new game. I don't really want to play the same game, you know, like 7-8 years later. So that's my thought. I truly hope we get an announcement in 2021. I think you have to get, this year we are going to get announcements for, you know, following years, for 2022, 2023. We are going to find out about games that are further down the line. All-Stars 2 could absolutely be one of them. I am not banking on it. I'm not going to bet on that, but I do think it's a possibility to stay optimistic. So let me know, guys, in the comments below. What do you think? Are you wanting a second game? Do you think they could pull it off? Let me know. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you guys have the bell icon turned on so you know all these videos go up. Again, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, PodcastNow15 is my Twitter handle. Would love to have you guys over there. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope to see you all on the next video.